A few, if any, towns, villages and hamlets in Ayrshire don't have a war memorial. These can take the form of a simple cross, the Celtic cross, plaques, sundials, water fountains, temple-like structures, obelisks, and so on. There are a fortunate few places in Scotland, England and Wales where there may be no war memorial because nobody was actually killed during the First and Second World Wars. Memorials normally carry the names of those who took part and were killed during the conflict, but occasionally carry those who took part and also survived. More unusually, some of the war memorials relate back to the wars of the empire, such as the Boer War, and very rarely they relate to people such as the Covenanters. After all, they did declare war against the king. Very rarely you find those who relate in some way to Robert the Bruce and to William Wallace and the wars with Edward I. Occasionally you'll find a memorial to a single person, such as to the Victoria Cross holder at Thornhill. An unusual war memorial is one at Bell's Bank. There is a Mannington War memorial just up the hill from it, but Bell's Bank itself appears to be neglected, and somebody at some point seems to have created one. Memorials are normally in exclusive or very conspicuous locations. Occasionally moved, such as the one at B that used to be on the hill overlooking the town and was moved into the town centre. Barr in South Ayrshire has a fine example of a Boer War memorial. This is for John McTaggart, who was killed in South Africa in 1901. The memorial itself is a rather fine water fountain, cast iron, very ornate, very Victorian. Some memorials can be a little mysterious, such as the Lord Soulis cross, that used to be in Kilmarnock itself, is now placed within the Dick Institute at the museum. It was removed in 1825 and replaced by another memorial. There's a date on it suggesting that Lord Soulis was killed at the site in 1444. However, there's no record of a Lord Soulis, an Englishman, has been involved in a conflict in the area, so its origins remain a mystery. The size of the memorial tends to relate to the size of the town or village or hamlet. In the case of Kilmarnock, there's a splendid chapel-like structure that stands in front of the Dick Institute. War memorials are usually very well cared for. They are the site of an annual ceremony that brings the people together from the community to remember those who were killed during these wars. On occasion you'll see alterations made to the war memorials themselves, such as the correction of mistakes and spellings of names, or the additions of people from other conflicts who died, such as the Falklands War and the Korea War. Sometimes aristocratic families erected extremely prominent war memorials to members of the family who died in conflicts. A good example is the one that overlooks Streighton. This is to Lieutenant Colonel James Hunter Blair, who was killed in 1854, the Battle of Inkerman. This was where the Allies, the British and the French, were fighting the Imperial Russian Army. A very unusual, if not unique, war memorial is the Fisherman's Tryst. This lies in the Mauchline Gorge on the River Lugar. Here it's said that a group of fishermen, anglers, before the First World War, got together and said that if any of them were to die, then any survivors would create a war memorial by carving their names and details onto the walls of the red sandstone gorge. Incidentally, there's also an RB said to be a memorial to Robert Burns carved here. The Wallace Tower, memorial to William Wallace at Stirling, is well known. However, the Ayrshire example, even though it's older, is not so well known. This lies on the hill known as Barnweil, which is not far from the village of Craigie. It's said that William Wallace, having locked a number of Englishmen into the barns at Ayr, set light to them, and went up to the hill, looked down upon it, and said that the barns burned wheel, hence the so-called origin of the name. A tower was built here, a splendid structure, paid for by Ayrshire people. It used to have its own warden, visitor's book, and so on. It still stands, though, and is still accessible.